His skin was warm against mine. His arms were curled tightly around me, like I was something precious, something to be protected. Kane's steady heartbeat thumped against my back as I lay in his embrace. I felt our baby settle inside me, moving gently as if it too had found comfort in Kane's hold. He pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. "I swear to you," he whispered, "I'll keep you and our child safe. You're mine, Kathy, always." My heart swelled with a tender ache, and for a moment I let myself believe those words completely. I let myself believe that the Kane I had just made love to, the one who held me like I was his whole world, was the only version of him that existed. I wanted so badly to think that all the pain, all the miscommunication, all the betrayal between us was finally behind us. I turned in his arms slightly, my hand resting over his chest. His eyes were softened. For the first time in a while, he didn't look at me with that cold gaze. It gave me the courage to ask. Now that there's a witness, now that it's been proven Violet killed Elder Alyosha. I trailed off, watching him closely. "What are you going to do with her?" His body tensed. That was my first warning. Before I could even finish the sentence, his hand slipped away from my waist, and he sat up abruptly. The softness in his expression vanished, replaced with something hard and unreadable. "Kathy?" he said. His tone was firm, like a warning. "Alyosha's death was an accident." I blinked. "What?" Kane looked away, jaw tightening. It wasn't supposed to happen. Violet didn't mean to. She was defending herself. The blood drained from my face. I sat up too. "You knew?" My voice cracked. "You knew all along that she was the one who killed him?" He didn't answer. My chest rose and fell rapidly. I could feel the tears prickling behind my eyes. "But when you thought it was me, when you thought I was the one who killed him, you didn't hesitate. You treated me like a traitor." It's different," he cut in. His voice was cold now. "Different?" I laughed bitterly. "How is it different, Kane? Because it's Violet? Because it's her?" He stood from the bed, grabbing his pants. "You don't understand what you're saying." "No, I think I do." I stared at him. "You were ready to tear me apart when you thought I'd killed him. I was pregnant, your mate, and you still didn't hesitate. But Violet, she gets the benefit of the doubt? She gets protection?" "She didn't fake a phoenix mark," he snapped. That hit me like a slap. I gasped. "What?" "You and Elder Alyosha," he continued. "You were working together. You knew the prophecy. You tampered with the mark so you could—" "Stop." I could barely get the word out. "Are you serious right now?" He didn't stop. His eyes were burning, but it wasn't desire this time. It was something else. Disgust. Accusation. "You let everyone believe you were the Phoenix reborn. You paraded around with that mark like it made you untouchable. And now what? Now you want me to punish Violet and pretend none of that happened?" My whole world tilted. "I didn't fake the mark," I whispered. "And Elder Alyosha didn't. He tried to protect me. From her. From all of this. You expect me to believe that?" His voice was sharp. "That after everything, you're suddenly innocent again? What happened, Kathy? Did the mark disappear conveniently because the truth was catching up to you?" I stood from the bed slowly. My body trembled, not from fear, but from sheer heartbreak. The man who had just held me like I was everything was now tearing me apart with his words. I had never been more disappointed. My throat tightened painfully. "I thought we'd moved past this. I thought we understood each other now. I thought you believed me." He didn't say a word, just silence. And that silence cut deeper than any blade. My eyes became filled with tears. "You were supposed to protect me. You were supposed to trust me, but instead you trust her, the one who actually committed the crime. You protect her because what? Because she's always been there? Because you want to believe she's not capable of it?" His face twisted. "You're twisting this." "No." I said through clenched teeth, "You are. You're twisting everything to suit your own guilt." I stepped closer, pointing a shaking finger at him. "You abandoned me when I needed you most. You humiliated me in front of the pack, stripped me of everything, and now you have the audacity to accuse me of conspiring? After everything we just shared?" His mouth opened slightly. There was a flicker, just a flicker of regret in his eyes. But it wasn't enough. "Kathy." "No," I interrupted, tears running freely down my cheeks. "I can't do this again, Kane. I won't. Just leave." The pain in my chest was unbearable, like 1,000 glass shards piercing straight through my soul. I looked at him. really looked at him, and all I could see was the man who didn't trust me, the man who would never truly see me. "I believed you when you said you'd protect me," I whispered. "But now I know. I was a fool to believe that, because the moment you have to choose between me and her, you'll always choose her." Kane took a deep breath, and without another word, he walked out, banging the door behind him. I closed my eyes. I had never felt more disappointed in my life. That was the moment I completely lost faith in Kane. Kane's povey. The silence in my office had become suffocating. Even the rustle of papers or the occasional crackle from the fireplace did nothing to chase away the growling presence in the back of my mind. "You need to fix this." My wolf's voice had been relentless all day. Not just a whisper in the shadows of my thoughts, but a constant growl. "She disrespected Violet," I muttered under my breath, leaning forward and gripping the edge of the desk. "She kept pushing, even when I told her to stop." "And you pushed harder," he snapped. "She's carrying your pup. You should have shown control. You're her mate, not a beast biting at the closest threat." I closed my eyes. I remembered the look on Kathy's face when I raised my voice, the way her hands instinctively went to her belly, protecting the pup from me. I remember the hurt in her eyes when she realized I was going to protect Violet. The guilt sank deep inside me, even though I wanted to deny it. "She shouldn't have." "Excuses," my wolf growled. "You think we're justified because she bruised your pride? What about her pain? Her fear? You weren't there when the doctor said her blood pressure was spiking. You heard his reports, but you did nothing. You were too angry to care." I swallowed hard. My wolf continued, "She's still standing even after everything, still carrying your child, and you gave her nothing, not protection, not affection, not even a shred of kindness." I leaned back in my chair, dragging a hand down my face. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at nothing, listening to the ache inside me grow louder. "Then what do I do?" I asked aloud. "Apologize. At the very least." I let out a long breath. I was a king. Apologizing didn't come easy to me. "Fine," I murmured. "I'll do something. For her. And the pup." A few hours later, I stood outside the doors of the Mooncrest, the Pack's most luxurious and exclusive restaurant. Violet and I used to come sometimes. The owner, a tall man named Emile, came hurrying out the moment he caught my scent. He was smart like that. "Alpha Kane," he said, bowing his head deeply. "An honor. It's been a while. I need a private room," I told him. "For two. Something special, 3 nights from now." "Of course, Alpha," Emile said immediately. "I'll prepare the chef's best courses. Do you have any preferences?" "No seafood. She hates it," I muttered, realizing it far too late. Had I ever really tried to know Kathy's tastes before now? "And your best non-alcoholic wines." He nodded, taking notes. "It will be perfect, I promise." I gave a stiff nod and left without another word. On the day Kathy was going to be discharged, I went to the hospital to pick her up. She stepped out of her room slowly, cradling her small bump. When she saw me leaning against the hallway wall, she froze. "Kane?" Her voice was unsure. She sounded surprised. I didn't blame her. "I came to pick you up," I said simply. Her brows furrowed. "Why?" "Because you're carrying my pup," I replied. "You shouldn't be walking or taking cabs. You need rest." She shifted on her feet, looking visibly uncomfortable. "You don't have to do this. I can manage fine on my own." My jaw tightened. "I know I don't, but I'm doing it anyway." She stared at me for a long second, then sighed. "Fine." She walked slowly beside me, and I adjusted my pace instinctively. Every few steps, I caught her rubbing her back or shifting to ease some hidden discomfort. Guilt spread in my chest like smoke. I should have been there more. I should have asked more questions, checked on her, held her, maybe. When we got into my car, I helped her settle in. She kept her eyes on the window, as if looking outside would keep me at a distance. It was only when she realized the driver wasn't taking the usual route to the palace that she turned to me sharply. "This isn't the way home," she said. "I know," I said calmly. "Then where are we going?" she asked. I hesitated, then spoke. "I'm taking you on a date." The silence between us stretched. "You heard me." She blinked. "Why?" I glanced at her briefly. "Because you deserve it." Her lips parted in disbelief. For a second, I thought she might laugh. But then she just stared at me. I noticed all the emotions in her eyes, anger, surprise, maybe even pain. She said nothing after that, but but I kept sneaking glances at her. And that's when I noticed it. Her wrists were thinner than I remembered. Her cheeks hollowed slightly, like she hadn't been eating well. She held her stomach gently, but with a kind of silent desperation that made my throat tighten. She'd lost weight, a whole lot of it. Was the pregnancy draining her that much, or was it something else? Stress? Pain? Me? "You look pale," I said. "I'm pregnant," she replied flatly, not even looking at me. "It happens." I winced. "I didn't mean it like that." She shook her head. "Of course you didn't. I didn't know if tonight would fix anything. But it was a start, and right now, that's all I had. Kathy's POV. A date? Was this really Kane's idea of an apology? I sat in the passenger seat of his car with my fingers gently resting over the small swell of my stomach. The silence between us was thick. Now he wanted to take me on a date? My first thought was that this was just another attempt to smooth things over for Violet's sake. Maybe he was trying to ease the guilt or distract me with fine dining and sweet words. But despite everything, I felt a flicker of anticipation. Pathetic, I know, but he had been my first love, my only love. We'd spent 5 years wrapped up in each other's lives, and now he was the father of my child. I could pretend to be indifferent, act like none of this got to me, but deep down, just the idea of being seen, noticed, chosen by him, even for a fleeting moment, sent my heart racing. The car slowed to a stop in front of a place I hadn't seen in a long time, Mooncrest. My eyes widened. The restaurant was glowing. The warm candlelights were visible even from outside. It looked like something out of a dream. For a second, I froze in my seat, unsure if I'd heard him wrong. "Kane, why are we here?" I asked softly. He glanced at me. "Because you deserve to feel special." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat tightened at the simple, direct answer. And the way his eyes looked at me, intense, made me feel something I didn't want to admit. He walked around the car and opened the door for me. I stepped out slowly, feeling shocked by his gesture. He offered his arm. I hesitated, then took it. We walked in together. The restaurant's owner practically bowed at Kane's presence, guiding us toward a secluded table near a window that overlooked the moonlit forest. The air inside was warm and filled with the scent of herbs and something sweet baking. It felt intimate, special. As we sat down, I took in the details of the table. Soft white linens, a single rose in a glass vase, and 2 candles flickering gently between us. The whole place was perfect, like something out of a romance novel I used to read when I was still foolish enough to believe in happy endings. For a moment, it brought a feeling of sweetness to my heart, one I hadn't felt in a long time, until the waiter brought the first course. Lemon-infused roasted duck with honey glaze and rosemary potatoes. My heart sank. Then came the truffle risotto with asparagus, and the sparkling berry water. I stared at the dishes as each one arrived, my stomach twisted with each one. These were all Violet's favorite foods, every single one. Not a single favorite dish of mine was here, so even this night that he had prepared for me was rooted in her. My lips pressed into a tight line. I could feel the bitterness crawling up my throat like bile. I picked at the food quietly. I was no longer hungry. Kane must have sensed the shift in my mood. "I know what you're thinking," he said after a moment. His voice was unusually gentle. "And you're right, a lot has happened since Violet returned." I kept my eyes on my plate, saying nothing. "I haven't handled it well," he continued. "I've been inconsiderate, distant." I looked up at him then, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. "I hurt you," he added, "and I hate that I did, especially now when you're carrying our pup." My breath hitched slightly. "I won't pretend like I have all the answers," he said, "but I promise I'll do better. I'll be more mindful of you, of the baby, of what you both need." His words were simple, but they struck something deep inside me. He leaned in slightly. "I've already started working on a new security detail, a guard rotation just for you. You'll be safe. Always." That sounded like the Kane I remembered, the alpha who always took care of his own. The man I had fallen in love with, the one who could command a room and yet still find time to kiss my forehead when I couldn't sleep at night. The atmosphere between us began to soften. We talked about little things, the pup's name, the nursery, his ridiculous Gamma who couldn't remember where he parked his own car last week. Then Kane smiled. It wasn't one of those polite, tight-lipped ones he gave during meetings. No, this was different. It was genuine, unguarded, filled with warmth I hadn't seen in years. It stunned me. Before I could fully process it, he leaned forward, reached across the table, and with a gentle swipe he dabbed a napkin at the corner of my mouth. "You had a little sauce," he murmured in a teasing tone. My cheeks burned instantly. Goddess, why was he still able to do this to me? That boyish grin, the husky rumble of his voice, the look in his eyes that made me feel like I was the only woman in the room. I could hardly breathe. "You planned this on purpose," I said, narrowing my eyes at him. "What?" He feigned innocence. "The food, the candlelight, the charm." He chuckled. "Maybe I just wanted to remind you that I can still make you blush." I laughed, genuinely laughed, before catching myself. He saw it too, the way I tried to hide my smile. "Don't be surprised," he said with a smirk. "I am still devilishly handsome. And ridiculously arrogant," I muttered. He grinned wider, "Only when it works." We talked more, and he even cracked a few jokes, one about the time his wolf panicked at a squirrel during a border patrol. I found myself laughing more than I wanted to, easing into the conversation, letting myself forget, just for a moment, everything that had come before. Just as I began to genuinely enjoy myself, I heard her voice. High-pitched and familiar. "Dominic," Violet's voice echoed through the room. "Are you on a date with Kathy?" Oh no, Kathy's poof. I should have known. I blinked, hoping it was someone else, someone who just sounded like her, but no. I turned toward the entrance of the restaurant just in time to watch her saunter in. Her glossy black hair bounced with each step. There was a smirk already playing on her lips, like she owned the place. Like she owned him. And maybe she did. I felt Kane stiffen slightly beside me, but his expression didn't change. Not a flicker of guilt or hesitation. Just a cool, casual, "Violet, hey." I froze. That was all he had to say? Violet didn't wait for an invitation. She slid right into the seat next to him, her thigh pressed against his, her hand grazing his arm like she had every right. He didn't flinch. He didn't even look at me, just leaned a bit closer to her, murmuring something that made her giggle like a teenager. "Kane," I whispered. My voice was small, too small. "What's going on?" He glanced at me briefly, barely, then back to Violet. "It's not what you think, Vi. We're not on a date. She just got discharged, and I thought I'd be nice enough to give her a proper meal." A proper meal? That was what I was reduced to. Those words hit harder than they should have. After everything, after the way we connected tonight. Violet gave me a glance, like I was an annoying little fly buzzing around her moment. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said innocently. "I didn't mean to interrupt anything." "You're not," Kane said. "I assure you, I'm glad you're here. Things were getting a bit boring anyway." My chest tightened, like someone had clenched a fist around my lungs. The warmth and laughter we'd shared just an hour ago had evaporated, like it never happened. And now, he was here, laughing with her. I watched in stunned silence as he picked up a piece of food, something from the appetizer plate we were supposed to share, and held it up to Violet's lips. "Here, try this," he said softly. And she did. Her eyes were locked with his the entire time. I felt sick. I stood up, pushing back from the table on shaky legs. Neither of them looked up. I barely made it to the restroom before I stumbled into a stall and dropped to my knees. My stomach twisted violently, and I threw up everything I had eaten. My tears mixed with the nausea as it all poured out of me in hot, bitter waves. This wasn't just food. It was every bit of hope I had tasted earlier. Every soft moment we shared. Every stupid fantasy I let myself believe. All of it was gone, just like that. When I finally stood, my face was pale. My hands were trembling as I washed them. My reflection looked hollow. I didn't recognize the girl staring back. She looked too fragile, too easily shattered. I returned to the table, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me run away. Violet glanced up with feigned surprise. "Oh, Kathy, are you okay? You look so pale." I ignored her, sitting down slowly. I kept my gaze fixed on the tablecloth. I didn't trust myself to speak. My throat felt raw from vomiting, but it was nothing compared to the rawness in my chest. Kane finally glanced at me. "Kathy, are you feeling unwell?" I didn't respond. He reached across the table. "I can take you home if you're not feeling up to it." "I'm fine," I whispered, cutting him off. But then Violet clung to his arm like a lifeline, pressing against him with wide, anxious eyes. "Kane, wait, don't leave me," she said, her voice trembling. You know how bad my anxiety's been lately. You said you'd help me through it. Please, I don't feel safe alone. I blinked at her. Seriously? Kane hesitated. Kathy? He said slowly. The driver can take you back. I'll check on you later. I nodded stiffly, not trusting myself to speak. I stood and walked out without another word. My legs were numb. My chest had a painful ache that wouldn't go away. He never came back that night. The scent of eggs and butter woke me before the sunlight did. For a moment, I imagined Kane had gotten up early and decided to make breakfast as an apology. I imagined an explanation waiting in the kitchen. Something, anything to make this nightmare make sense. But I knew that would never happen. Kane was a proud alpha. He'd never make such a gesture. It's one of the reasons I was surprised he even took me out on a date last night. A girl could only dream. I went downstairs and walked down to the kitchen. As soon as I entered, I came face to face with Violet. Violet stood at the stove, humming off key, flipping something in a pan with far too much flair. She was wearing one of Kane's shirts, his shirts, and it swallowed her small frame, practically announcing whose room she'd left that morning. She turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, morning, Kathy. Hope you slept well." I stared at her. She twirled back to the stove, then added sweetly, "Kane and I had such a wonderful night." I met her gaze calmly. I expected the stab in my chest, the bitterness, but nothing came. I was hollow. Her words didn't pierce because I'd already bled dry. She frowned at my silence. She looked annoyed that her dagger hadn't landed. "Well," she continued airily, "I guess he just needed someone who could really understand him." I said nothing. Her smile slipped slightly. Then suddenly her voice dropped lower, cruel, cold. "If it weren't for you, Elder Alyosha would still be alive." I stopped breathing. "What?" I asked in disbelief. "You heard me," she said with a twisted smile. "You killed him, and now he's gone." I stepped toward her slowly. I could feel the rage bubbling up inside me from somewhere deep. "You killed him," I whispered. "You murdered him, and you think no one knows. But someone saw you. We know the truth now." Violet's face lost its color for a second. Then she tried to back away. "Don't come near me." "No," I hissed, grabbing her arm. "Not this time. You don't get to lie your way out." Suddenly she shrieked. It was a high-pitched, piercing scream that could wake the dead. In a single dramatic motion, she flung a tray of dishes off the counter, shattering them against the tile floor. "Oh my God!" she wailed. You destroyed breakfast. I spent all morning, I tried, and now look what you've done." "What the hell are you?" I stepped back in disbelief. My hands were still raised from where I had grabbed her. Tears streamed down her face as she sank to her knees dramatically. "I just wanted to do something nice. I didn't sleep at all last night, and this was the one thing I thought might make everyone smile." Her sobs echoed through the kitchen. And then I smelled it. Kane's scent. "Kathy," his voice was like ice. "What the hell happened here?" Kathy's pove. I stood there, stunned with my hands trembling at my sides. "I didn't do anything," I said breathlessly. My voice cracked as I looked up at Kane. "She's lying. I didn't touch the tray. I didn't ruin anything." His expression was unreadable. His dark brows furrowed slightly as his gaze shifted between me and Violet. He wasn't glaring, not yet, but the absence of warmth in his eyes was worse than rage. I hated that I searched his face for something, anything. Doubt, sympathy, belief, but all I got was silence. One thing I noticed was that Kane wasn't quick to jump in to defend her. This time he was just quiet, and then Violet struck. She whimpered softly. Her body crumbled as she flung herself into Kane's arms, her sobs muffled against his chest. "No, Kane," she choked out. Don't scold her. I'm sure she didn't do it on purpose." Her fingers clutched his shirt like she'd fall apart if he let go. "I was just trying to do something nice for everyone. I stayed up all night. I thought maybe if I cooked, things would feel normal again." She pulled back slightly and glanced at me, red-eyed and trembling. "I just wanted peace." Liar. The word burned my throat before it spilled out. "You liar." My voice was low but sharp. "You planned this. You provoked me, and now you're pretending to be the victim. How can you stand there and cry like you didn't just—" "Kathy," Kane said sharply, and my heart jerked at the sound, not because he'd raised his voice, but because of how cold he sounded. "Leave the kitchen." I blinked at him, struggling to breathe. "You believe her? Again?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The ache in my chest spread like ice through my veins as I turned and walked away. My footsteps echoed in the hallway like I was the only one in the world. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just tired. So damn tired. Kane's povey. I had seen everything. From the moment Violet set the breakfast tray down to the moment she screamed and knocked it over herself. Kathy had done nothing. Absolutely nothing. My wolf snarled inside me, clawing at my chest with fury. "She's lying," he growled. "Again. And they believe her again. How much longer will you watch this happen?" I clenched my fists at my sides, steadying my breath. "Because she's broken," I told him. "Because she was hurt. And people hurt others when they're hurting too. She doesn't know how to deal with it. Don't you dare defend her." I swallowed hard and turned away from the hallway where Kathy had vanished. My gaze fell to Violet. She was still clinging to me like a shattered porcelain doll. My chest tightened, not with love, not even sympathy. Guilt, maybe, and confusion. Why did she keep doing this? Why couldn't I stop making excuses for her? Memories flooded back of when we were kids, hiding from the rogues in the shadows of the northern border. I remembered the small hands that gripped mine so tightly, the way her arms wrapped around me when she found me bleeding and scared. She hadn't run. She'd stood between me and danger. And when I tried to thank her later, she just smiled and gave me that hideous bracelet she wore, saying, "It's lucky. Keep it." I owed her everything. My life, my loyalty, my protection. But now I wasn't sure who she really was anymore. I turned to the staff and told them to clean up. They stared at the broken dishes, the overturned tray, and the uneaten food with wide eyes, but they knew better than to ask questions. I didn't speak as I picked Violet up and carried her upstairs. She didn't resist. In fact, she curled against me like she belonged there. Her fingers brushed my neck as she buried her face in my shoulder. "I'm sorry for causing trouble," she whispered. "I just wanted things to feel like they used to." "Don't speak," I murmured, "just rest." Once I settled her into her bed and tucked the blanket around her, I noticed something strange. The bracelet, that old, oversized one I remembered from our childhood, she wasn't wearing it. "Where's the bracelet?" I asked quietly. She blinked at me and, "Oh, that," her voice turned soft. "It's too precious now. I don't wear it anymore. I keep it safe." Something flickered in my chest. Doubt. My wolf's silence was unsettling. I wanted to believe her. I needed to. "I see," I said. "Rest now." I left before I could question her further. Back in my office, I buried myself in work to escape the questions clawing through my head. I was halfway through the monthly reports when Jason walked in with his usual straight-backed posture and clipboard in hand. "Alpha," he greeted. "Preparations for the annual ball have begun. The ballroom's being redecorated. We need your guest list confirmed." "Violet will be my date," I said automatically. "Make sure her gown is ready. She'll want something in blue, I guess, and the hairdresser she likes, the one from Blue Haven. Fly her in." Jason nodded, scribbling quickly. "What about Kathy?" I froze. Kathy. I pictured her the way she'd looked this morning, hurt but composed, pale. She didn't beg for attention. She didn't fake tears. She didn't scream for someone to believe her. She just walked away, and the image wouldn't leave me. "She's pregnant," I said. "She doesn't need that kind of attention right now. But, I sighed. "Arrange a day off for me. I'll take her shopping myself. Let her pick whatever she likes." Jason's eyebrows lifted slightly, but he didn't question it. "Of course." I leaned back in my chair after he left. This wasn't about favorites. This wasn't about guilt. It was about fairness. Maybe, just maybe, Kathy deserved one moment where someone didn't pick the liar over her. Kathy's pav. Back in my room, I sat on the edge of my bed. My hands gently cradled the slight swell of my belly. It was still barely noticeable to the world, but to me, it was everything. This little life growing inside me, this was my sanity, my purpose, the only one who hadn't turned their back on me. "I'm okay," I whispered to my child, running my palm in soft circles. "Even if the whole world thinks I'm a liar, I've got you. We've got each other." I forced a shaky breath and stood, pulling open the wardrobe doors with trembling fingers. Inside were rows of gowns I hadn't worn in months, not since Kane had begun distancing himself, not since the stares from the pack had grown colder. Still, tonight was the ball, the annual wolf pack gathering, the most significant social event in our world. As Luna of the Blackwood Pack, I was supposed to host it. It was our tradition. It was my responsibility. I ran my fingers along the silks and satins, stopping at a deep emerald gown with a flowing train. Formal, lovely. I slipped it on, wincing as the zipper tugged just a little tighter than I remembered. My belly was growing. I stepped in front of the mirror, trying to smile. But my reflection betrayed me. There was sorrow in my eyes, the kind I hadn't learned to hide yet. I touched my cheek, remembering how Kane used to brush his lips across once. I used to feel like his queen. Now I wasn't even sure if I was still his wife. The door opened behind me. I turned, startled. Lady Helen stood in the doorway. She looked as ice-cold as ever. Her silver hair was tied up in a bun. She didn't knock. She never did. Her eyes scanned me up and down, and her lip curled in disapproval. "Take that off." I blinked. "Excuse me. You're not going," she said flatly, stepping further in as if the room belonged to her. "The ball. You won't be attending." My heart stuttered. "But I'm Luna. I'm the host, the other Pax." "You were Luna," she snapped, folding her arms. "Now you're just a pathetic fraud clinging to a title you no longer deserve." I felt the air leave my lungs. "What are you talking about?" She lifted her chin. "Kane has decided. You won't be making a fool of yourself or us by showing your face at the gathering. You were never the Phoenix Mark's bearer, were you? All lies." My voice shook. "I never lied about the mark." She laughed then, and the sound sent shivers through me. "Save your tears. Kane made the call. If it were up to me, you would have been gone the moment we found out." I stepped back as if her words had slapped me. He didn't even tell me himself. "Why would he?" she hissed. "You lost your usefulness the moment doubt fell on your precious mark. You were nothing more than a convenient illusion." I gripped the edge of the vanity to keep myself from falling apart. "He still hasn't seen it with his own eyes. He didn't even ask. He doesn't need to." She cut me off, already turning away. "You're not fit to be Luna anymore. Stay in your room. Don't embarrass yourself further." The door closed behind her with a soft click. That was somehow the worst part, that gentle sound marking the end of something I'd worked so hard to build. I stood frozen in place, staring at my reflection. I was still dressed in emerald silk, still trying to pretend everything was fine, but it wasn't. It was over. I sank to the floor, wrapping my arms around my belly, trying so hard not to sob, for my baby's sake. But it hurt. Goddess, it hurt. That was when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to hope, but I did. Kane. For a second, my breath caught. Maybe he was going to fix this. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. I answered with a trembling hand. "Kane." "Come downstairs. I'm waiting at the door." Just that. No greeting, no explanation. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "What's going on?" "What's going on?" "I'll explain later," he said and hung up. I barely had time to wipe my tears. I changed into a long black coat to hide my dress, threw on flats, and walked out. Every step down the staircase felt like a battle. I saw some of the palace staff whispering, watching me, like I was some tragic figure being led to execution. Kane stood at the front door, looking as composed as ever in a tailored dark coat. His hair was slicked back. His expression was unreadable. "You look tired," he said. He looked at me briefly, then away. I wanted to scream, but I bit my tongue. "Where are we going?" I asked instead, quietly. He simply nodded toward the car. "Get in." We both got into the car. The drive was silent, tense. I kept glancing at him, hoping for a word, a clue, a sign that he was still mine. But his hands gripped the wheel like he couldn't wait for the ride to end. I turned to the window, watching buildings blur past. Then the car slowed. I looked up. The city's largest luxury mall rose before us. The glass doors shimmered under the golden lighting, and expensive brands lined the windows: Versace, Dior, Cartier. What were we doing in this store? I was surprised because it had been so long since I had been to a nice place like this. I wondered why Kane brought me here. I guess I'd find out soon enough. Kathy's Pove. The moment Kane pulled up in front of the upscale mall, I blinked at the towering building before me. The mall was the biggest in the city. I hadn't been to an amazing place like this in ages. I usually spent my time in the palace doing chores or running errands for Lady Helen. I looked around at the sleek glass panels, the golden lighting, and the most luxurious stores in the city. Everything in here gleamed like they belonged to another world. I hadn't been to a place like this in what felt like a lifetime. Before I could voice the 1,000 questions screaming in my head, Kane cut the engine. He turned slightly toward me, but his expression remained unreadable. "I'll go park the car," he said. "You go in. Pick out a dress." My lips parted. I was confused. "A dress?" "For the ball," he said simply. "We don't have much time. Go on." I sat frozen for a second with my hand resting on my slightly swollen belly, trying to catch up with what had just happened. A dress for the ball. My fingers trembled as they gripped the door handle. Was he serious? Was I still going? Had Lady Helen lied? But she said Kane made the decision for me not to go. My heart fluttered in cautious excitement. Maybe I wasn't being pushed aside after all. Maybe Kane still saw me, his Luna, his mate. Maybe there was still hope. I stepped out of the car with one hand gently pressing against my belly, as if to reassure the tiny life inside me. "Looks like we might still get to go, baby," I whispered. "Let's pick something beautiful, The air inside the boutique was filled with sophistication. Light jazz played in the background as lovely dressed clerks moved between racks of satin and silk. Everything screamed elegance, far beyond what I'd been wearing for the past few months. My eyes caught a breathtaking gown. The dress was a deep, midnight blue with embroidered silver that shimmered like stars. The dress was off-shoulder, fitted at the waist, and it flowed down. "That one," I murmured, pointing to it. A woman nearby, probably a clerk, raised her brows and approached, clearly sizing me up. Her lips curled into a smirk that immediately made my skin crawl. "You want to try that one?" she asked. Her voice was sugar-coated with mockery. "It's from the exclusive line, you know. Might not be the best fit for your budget." I blinked. "Excuse me?" She folded her arms and her sneer grew even bolder. "We don't do returns for people who change their mind after realizing how much these cost. You know, women who like to pretend they belong in places like this." Anger burned in my throat, but I fought to stay calm. "I am Luna Cathy of the Blackwood Pack," I said, "and I asked to try on that dress." The clerk let out a short, condescending laugh. "Oh, you're the one," she said. "I knew it was you, the one who stole Violet's place and faked the mark." The name hit me like a slap. Her eyes narrowed as she leaned closer. Her voice dropped to a vicious whisper. "Everyone knows you tricked Alpha Kane into mating with you, that you're nothing but a fraud with a painted-on phoenix mark. You think that baby's going to make you Luna forever? You're just playing house, sweetie." My fists clenched at my sides. My vision blurred slightly with rage. "Say that again," I hissed. "Thief." She spat, and that was the moment I heard it. His voice was as sharp as a blade and powerful enough to still the air. "Who gave you permission," Kane growled from behind, "to speak to the pack's Luna like that?" The temperature dropped instantly. The clerk turned around. As soon as she saw him, her face went pale. Kane stood there with his alpha presence dominating the entire boutique. His eyes pinned the woman in place like a predator sizing up prey. I'm sorry, Alpha," she stammered. But he didn't budge. "You dare speak?" She collapsed faster than gravity could have pulled her. She went down on her knees immediately. Please forgive me." Kane didn't say a word for a moment. His eyes flicked to me, and there was so much anger there that I almost flinched. I could see some emotions inside. Pain? Regret? I didn't know. But the way his eyes softened just a little, it made my heart ache. "You forget your place again," he told the clerk, "and you won't have one." The woman nodded frantically from the floor. She was practically trembling like a leaf in a thunderstorm. "Get out," he snapped. She scrambled to her feet and vanished like smoke. I stood there, speechless, unsure if I was relieved or on the verge of tears. "Kane," I breathed. Maybe, just maybe, I still meant something to Kane. Kane's povee. I never expected someone in the pack to treat Luna this way. As I stood there watching Cathy, my mate, my Luna, suffer through the humiliating experience, my wolf growled. It was a deep sound that rumbled through me, pulling at my insides. The anger, the fury, I felt it. My eyes flashed with pure rage as I turned to face the clerk responsible for the disrespect. If I hadn't ignored Cathy earlier, none of this would have happened. The thought echoed through my mind. I should have paid attention to her sooner, I thought. I should have protected her. My wolf snapped back. A Luna who isn't respected by her alpha? How can the pack acknowledge her, Kane? His words stung. Hell, they pierced right through me, twisting deep in my chest. I had no response, no justification. His accusation was the truth. I had failed her. And the worst part? I had been too blind to see it. The moment was suffocating, and I could feel the weight of my own failure. My chest tightened as I stepped forward. I could feel the temperature around me dropping with my rising anger. I looked at the clerk with a glare that could melt her right there and then. "You're fired," I said. "Get out of here, and never set foot on my pack's territory again." Her face drained of color, and she stammered, struggling to find the words to defend herself. I didn't care. I didn't need an explanation. I could see the disrespect in her eyes, the way she had looked down at Kathy without hesitation. She was gone, and I would ensure no one in the pack ever dared to treat my Luna like that again. She had no choice. She bowed her head, murmuring her apology again before leaving. The other clerk stepped forward nervously. Her eyes moved between Kathy and me. She quickly took over, leading Kathy into the dressing room. But I didn't let my eyes leave her. I couldn't. I wanted to march in there and hold her close, soothe away the hurt that I had allowed to happen. But I couldn't. Not yet. The door closed behind her, and I stood there breathing deeply as my wolf's growl echoed in my chest. His anger rose again. "You should have seen this coming. You should have known," he grumbled. "I know," I whispered back. I failed her. I failed my Luna. I stood there, muscles tense, hands clenched. It felt like hours before the door to the dressing room opened. And then I saw her. She stepped out. The soft fabric of the deep emerald silk gown hugged her figure like it was made for her. It was mesmerizing. The gown brought out her curves. But it wasn't just the dress that caught my attention, it was her. The pregnancy had softened her. The swell of her belly, the glow in her skin, it only made her more radiant, more beautiful. And in that moment, it was like the world around me disappeared. There was only her, only Kathy. My throat tightened, and for a moment I couldn't speak. I just stared at her, unable to tear my gaze away. Goddess, she was breathtaking. Every inch of her was perfect. "How does it look?" she asked softly. Her voice was laced with a trace of nervousness. I could hear it in her words, the vulnerability, the quiet doubt. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. I wanted to say so much, but all I could manage was a whisper. Perfect. Even my wolf couldn't contain his excitement. His presence stirred beneath my skin, urging me to go to her. He wanted to touch her, to claim her in ways that made my heart pound, my blood burn. I couldn't resist. I stepped closer. My fingers grazed her arm lightly. The moment we touched, it was like lightning shot through my veins. Every inch of me came alive, my body shivered at the contact, and my mind swirled with thoughts I couldn't control. Her breath hitched as my fingers traced the curve of her arm. I leaned in, my lips brushing against her ear. The words came out in a rough, desperate murmur. "Since you already know the answer, you shouldn't ask a man such questions," I said. I could feel the heat rising between us. My heart hammered in my chest. I wanted to take her right here, right now. I wanted to kiss her until there was no room left for anything but the two of us. She held my gaze. Her eyes burned with intensity. Her lips parted. Her breath was shallow, and I knew she was feeling it too. The pull, the chemistry, the desire that had been burning between us for so long. "If you keep looking at me like that," I warned, "I might take you home before you even get the chance to wear this dress in public." Her fingers gripped my shirt tightly, and I felt her body press closer to mine. The air between us was thick with tension. Her lips brushed against mine, a tease, a challenge. "Then prove it," she whispered. Oh, goddess, those words, they set my blood on fire. I could feel my body reacting in ways I couldn't control. I was so close, so damn close to losing it, to letting my instincts take over completely. I could hardly breathe, but I leaned in, my lips grazing hers, but I didn't kiss her. Not yet. The teasing touch was enough to send my mind spiraling. The dress, the challenge, the way she looked at me with those eyes, I was losing control. My cock ached with need. I could feel it about to explode in my pants. I had to touch her. I had to hold her. Had Kathy always been this good at teasing? Oh, goddess, I might just die under this damn dress. Kathy's POV. The car's engine had stopped a while ago, but my mind was still on edge. The memory of Kane's lips on mine, the fire we'd shared, was still warm on my skin. I glanced at him across the seat. He was focused on the road with his jaw clenched in thought. He looked composed, powerful, every inch the alpha. I wasn't even sure why I wanted to ask him. Maybe it was the way he carried me earlier, like I mattered, or the way his voice had faltered once, just once, when he whispered my name against my neck. Maybe it was foolish hope, but I found the courage anyway. "Kane," I said. My voice was soft and careful, as if I were tiptoeing across broken glass. "Am I really not allowed to attend the annual ball this year?" He didn't look at me. His hands tightened around the steering wheel. Seconds passed. Then he nodded once. I stared at him. "But I've attended every year. I'm the Luna of Blackwood Pack. Only the bearer of the Phoenix Mark can stand at my side as my Luna. It was written in the prophecy long before either of us were born." My throat tightened. "So, because I don't have the mark, I'm nothing now?" "Don't twist my words, Kathy." I chuckled without humor. "Then what do you mean? That I should be content watching from the sidelines while Violet parades as your Luna?" "She's not." He stopped himself, sighing harshly. "I brought you shopping today because I know this wouldn't be easy for you. I wanted to cheer you up." Cheer me up. Like I was some child to be pacified with trinkets and new shoes. The words hit me harder than I expected, and suddenly, the clothes in the back seat felt like chains instead of comfort. My heart was pounding with the feeling of so much betrayal. I turned away, looking out the window as the palace gates came into view. "I'm not cheered up, Kane," I whispered, but I wasn't even sure he heard me, because this kind of compensation was meaningless. The week leading up to the annual Werewolf Ball Summit was filled with ribbons, roaring laughter, rehearsals, and so much preparations. Excitement spread through the pack like electricity. It was in every corridor, every conversation. Everyone was preparing for the grand event where werewolves of all ages would showcase their talents. And this year, it was ours. Blackwood Pack was the host. My pack, my people. By all rights, I should have been coordinating alongside the Lunas from the other 11 packs, leading, organizing, welcoming. But instead, I watched from the shadows as Violet filled the role that should have been mine. I told myself I was okay. I wasn't. Then came the unexpected knock. "Luna Kathy," said a soft voice. I turned to find a young Omega standing nervously at the doorway. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. You've been summoned to the Luna's meeting at the Gen Park Hotel. Lady Helen said Violet lacked experience and they'd need your help." I blinked. Lady Helen said that? "Yes, ma'am." My heart leapt. A spark of something spread through me. Hope. Maybe things were changing. Maybe I could still be useful, still belong. I changed quickly, choosing an elegant dress, and made my way to the hotel. The Gen Park Hotel was huge. The marble floors sparkled under crystal chandeliers that reflected golden light. Velvet drapes lined the wide lobby windows, and the scent of lilac filled the air. Only the elites came here. As I walked through the main corridor toward the Ruby conference room, the sound of hushed voices caught my ear. 2 Omegas stood by a floral arrangement, whispering in soft, giddy tones. "She's so graceful, and her eyes, have you ever seen anything like them?" one said. "Lady Violet's beauty is unreal, but she's smart too, that's the scary part. She's the perfect Luna, a true queen." I kept walking, ignoring the sudden tightness in my chest. They were singing Violet's praises. I shouldn't care. I shouldn't. But I did. Every step toward that room felt heavier. When I reached the door, I paused just a moment, straightened my spine, and pushed it open. The room fell silent. Violet stood at the head of a long table, dressed in a blue dress. Her hair was pinned in elegant waves, and her voice was poised as she addressed the gathered Lunas. The moment I entered, the conversation halted, and every gaze turned to me. A security guard near the entrance pulled out a chair with a respectful nod. As I moved toward it, something caught my eye, a tattoo on his forearm. A serpent wrapped in flame. My breath caught. That tattoo. Where had I seen it before? I didn't have time to remember, because Violet's voice echoed through the room. "Why are you here?" she asked. Her words were cold, empty, like ice behind a pretty smile. I steadied my voice. "Lady Helen said you needed assistance because of your lack of experience." Violet smirked. Funny, former Luna Helen never mentioned that to me. My heart stuttered. "But she didn't mention it to anyone," Violet continued smoothly. I could see something evil glinting in her eyes. I looked at Violet, praying this wasn't what it seemed. "Violet." She smiled, sickeningly sweet. "Oh dear, Kathy, this was a closed meeting. Only current Lunas were invited. But it's all right. We understand that you've been confused about your role." The room became filled with disapproving murmurs. Their whispers felt like claws against my skin. I stood frozen, humiliated, trapped in a room where I was once meant to lead and now treated like a trespasser. And then it dawned on me. This was a trap. I was brought here to be humiliated. Then Violet turned, tilting her head with mock sympathy. "As the Phoenix Luna, it is my duty to stand by Kane's side." Her tone was theatrical now, louder, meant for everyone to hear. "But if you truly wish to remain Luna, then I will bless you." A chorus of gasps followed, knowing glances, smirks. She wasn't offering a blessing. She was offering pity, a victory speech disguised as compassion. I opened my mouth to respond, to scream, to claw back whatever dignity I had left. I opened my mouth to say something, but then chaos erupted. Kathy's pove. Everything happened so fast. One time, I was standing in front of Violet and the other Lunas as Violet humiliated me, and the next thing, the chaos happened. The doors burst open with a loud bang, making everyone jump. My heart skipped a beat. I turned toward the noise, and that's when I saw him. The security guard I'd noticed earlier, the one with the tattoo on his arm, the same one who pulled out a chair for me. He moved fast, too fast, grabbing one of the Lunas and yanking her back against him. Then he pressed a knife against her throat. "Nobody use MindLink to call for help," he barked. His voice was rough and full of warning. Screams spread round the room. Some Lunas backed away, others froze. Some were even crying. Everyone was frightened. But I couldn't look away from the tattoo on his arm. That symbol. A serpent wrapped in flames. I knew it. I'd seen it somewhere before. I just couldn't remember when. Then he shouted, "Which one of you is the Luna of Blackwood Pack?" Every eye turned to me and Violet. They were all looking between us in confusion. I felt sick. My stomach tightened and my legs were suddenly weak. But I couldn't let anyone else get hurt. Not here. Not on our land. This was our territory. Kane's territory. If anyone was harmed under my watch, it would bring shame to his name. That couldn't happen. I wouldn't allow it. So I stepped forward. Violet wasn't willing to take the heat. "I'm the Luna of Blackwood," I said in a loud voice, even though everything inside me was shaking. He stared at me for a second, then shoved the Luna he was holding aside. She hit the floor, but she was alive. I walked slowly toward him, silently praying. Kane will come for me. I know he will. But then, before I could take another step, something slammed into the back of my head. Claws. Burning pain. Everything spun. I blinked, confused, trying to stay on my feet, but I couldn't. I collapsed to my knees. My hands caught myself against the floor. It took me a second to realize what had just happened. Violet. She clawed me. I turned slightly, dazed, and saw her face, calm, cold, like she'd been waiting for the right moment. Pain pounded in my skull and my vision started to go dark. As I slipped into unconsciousness, something clicked in my mind. The tattoo. The same one I saw during the rogue attack months ago. That same strange symbol. This wasn't random. This was something bigger. They had probably planned this. When I opened my eyes, everything was white, too white. That was when I realized that I was in a hospital room. Machines beeped softly around me and the smell of disinfectant filled the air. I jerked up, gasping. I reached for my stomach immediately. "The baby! You're okay," someone said gently. I turned my head to the side to see James. My brother, he was right there beside me, his hand holding mine. "The baby is fine," he said quickly. "But Kathy, that wound was close. Without your wolf's healing, it could have caused a miscarriage. You need to be careful." I immediately reached for my belly. I felt relief run through me when I felt the warmth of life still there. Tears burned my eyes. At least, my baby was safe. A nurse walked in and looked at me, hesitating like she had something she wanted to say. She looked uncomfortable, like she was holding something back. "You should," she started, but James cut her off. "Don't. Kathy needs to rest. That's enough for now." The nurse looked torn but gave a small nod before walking out. I wondered what the nurse wanted to tell me, but I was too tired to care. I leaned back on the pillow, trying to breathe. My head still throbbed, my thoughts were spinning. Then we heard it. Cheers. From outside. I frowned, confused. "What's going on out there?" I asked. James stood up and looked out the window. "They're celebrating," he said after a pause. I blinked. "What?" "They're celebrating Violet," he added. "She's being hailed as the Phoenix Luna, the one who saved the others. They're saying she stopped the attacker and even spared you." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. No, that's not true," I whispered. "She attacked me. She meant to hurt me." James didn't say anything. Slowly, I got up and looked outside to see what was going on. Outside, the crowd was cheering louder now. I saw people holding up signs, smiling, clapping, some even bowed to her. Violet stood on a stage, dressed in white, waving like a queen with a sparkling crown on her head, like a savior. They were treating her like a hero. And they all believed it. They believed her. And here I was, stuck in a hospital bed, barely able to protect myself or even speak out loud. My wolf still hadn't returned. I felt a deep ache in my chest. I knew what really happened. I knew what Violet did. But in their eyes, she was a hero, and I was just the girl who got saved. Kathy's POV. The hospital room felt suffocating now. It seemed like the walls were closing in on me. Outside the window, I could hear the voices and the cheering for Violet. My heart twisted in my chest as I watched it all. I could hear the people singing her praises. A chorus of relieved, celebratory voices, and then it was cut off. I didn't have to guess why. His voice echoed through the hallway. The voice was powerful and cold as usual. "Kane," I whispered to myself. My hands curled into fists beside myself. A second later, the door slammed open. I flinched at the sound. He walked in like a storm cloaked in black. Kane. His expression was furious and unreadable. His dark eyes swept the room before landing on me. The door shut behind him. Before he closed the door, I spotted Beta Jason standing outside, probably standing guard since Kane was inside. Kane didn't waste time. "Why the hell did you go to the hotel?" he demanded. No greeting. No concern. No, "Are you okay?" Just rage. He didn't even care about me, did he? Didn't he know what happened? I turned to him slowly, my heart trembling with each beat. I tried to meet his eyes, but couldn't. Your mother," I began softly, my voice cracking. She told me to go. She said it was important." His nostrils flared. "She told you?" he repeated. "You just, what, jump up and obey her without checking with me first? Are you that eager to disobey?" I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. "I wasn't eager to defy you, Kane. I thought I was helping," I whispered. "You thought wrong," he said flatly. "Besides, why would my mother tell you that in the first place?" A sharp pain twisted through my chest. I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, but more than anything, I wanted him to see me. Not just look at me, but see me. "I was trying to help you, your family, your people. I didn't think she..." As I kept talking, I realized that my words were making things worse. This was all a trap, after all. The more I spoke, the more Kane would get annoyed with me. I decided to keep quiet. Nothing I said would satisfy him anyway. For a moment, his expression softened, but then his mask came back on. His voice lowered, but the edge remained. "We think the people who grabbed you were part of the same group from 5 years ago. They're targeting anyone connected to Violet's mark." His words echoed in the hollow of my skull. "What? Could that be possible?" "That's what this was about," he continued. "Violet, she saved you. You should be thanking her." I blinked in disbelief. For a moment, I wasn't sure I had heard him correctly. "What?" The silence rang louder than any scream. "She saved me?" I asked. He nodded, eyes sharp. "She helped you. Took out the last guard, got you back before he could harm you further. She risked everything for you." My throat closed. That wasn't true. Violet was the one who attacked me, the one who hit my head so hard that I blacked out. She had planned all of this. "Kane," I said slowly, "that's not what happened. She hurt me. She was the one who hit my head with her claws so hard that I fainted. She didn't save me. She... He turned to face me with an angry expression. "Stop it," he screamed. I froze. "I'm serious, Kathy. I won't listen to your lies about her again. Violet has done nothing but protect this pack, and you." He gestured at me like I was a stain on his perfect world. "You keep dragging her name through the mud. Why?" My lips trembled. "Because she almost killed me, Kane." He stepped forward. "You're obsessed," he hissed. "You always twist everything to make yourself the victim. Violet saved your life, and you spit in her face." My chest heaved. "You really believe her over me after everything?" Kane leaned in close, his presence overwhelming. "I don't care what you think happened," he growled. "You don't get to slander Violet." Then his hand was suddenly around my throat. Not tight, not bruising, but enough to make me freeze in place. I gasped softly as his fingers trembled with restraint. "Say one more word against her," he whispered, "and I swear." Then, just like that, he let go. I pulled back with a broken sob as my hands flew to my neck. Did Kane just put his hands on me? He hadn't really hurt me, not physically, but something inside me shattered completely. The last fragile piece I had clung to, hope, died in that moment. He didn't love me. He never had. To him I was nothing. He didn't care about me. The only person he cared about was Violet. It was clear now that nothing could change that. My tears poured silently, and he didn't reach for me, didn't soften, didn't flinch. "I'm pregnant," I whispered. "She attacked me, threw me so hard I couldn't breathe. Do you even care that I could have lost the baby? That your child could have died because of her?" Silence. Kane looked away, and that silence told me everything I needed to know. The air thickened around me. My hands gripped the bed until my knuckles went white. "I don't want to see you anymore," I whispered. He turned back. "What?" "Get out. Kathy." "Get out!" I screamed. "I hate you. You let her do this to me. You let them all blame me. Just leave." Kane didn't move, but something cold settled in his expression. Then, finally, he turned toward the door. But before he could leave, the world tilted sideways. A blinding pain sliced through my skull. The pain was sharp and sudden. My vision swam. I cried out, clutching my head. My knees buckled, even from the bed. I gasped in shock. Shapes blurred. The walls rippled. Then darkness swelled behind my eyes. I barely felt the bed beneath me before the world went completely black. Slowly, my vision stared to blur. Kane's POV. I've seen blood. I've seen death. I've watched warriors fall and held grieving families as they broke. But I have never seen eyes like Kathy's. Not until today. As she screamed at me to get out, her face pale and wet with tears, it was the look in her eyes that gutted me, not her words. It was the way she looked like something had been carved out of her and replaced with nothing, hollow, defeated, as if she'd finally accepted something she had tried so hard not to believe, that I didn't love her, that I never would. She clutched her head suddenly, then her expression contorted with agony, and my heart stopped. "Kathy," I moved forward on instinct. All my rage was forgotten in one terrifying second, but before I could touch her, a wall stepped between us. It was James. "Enough," he growled, glaring at me. "You need to leave." She's in pain." "She doesn't want to see you right now," he said, "and I won't let you make it worse. This is all your fault." I stood there, fists clenched. My heart was racing like I'd run into battle, but my feet felt rooted, chained. "Go," James said again, and I did. I stumbled into the hallway. The door clicked shut behind me with a finality that shook something deep in my chest. "What the hell is wrong with you?" My wolf roared inside me the second the door closed. "You saw her falling apart and all you could do was question her, accuse her?" "I had to get answers," I snapped aloud, though my voice cracked. "She disobeyed me, put herself in danger, put the baby in danger. She almost died, Kane, and you walked in like some cold-blooded alpha, playing judge and jury. Where was your instinct? Your bond? Your heart?" My steps slowed as I made my way down the corridor. My chest felt like it was caving in. "She didn't tell me the whole truth?" I muttered. "She made it sound like Violet attacked her. And you trusted Violet instead," my wolf growled. "Even after all the lies, all the whispers you refused to hear." I stopped walking, pressing a hand against the wall. I didn't want to listen to this. Not now. You felt Kathy's pain. You smelled the blood, the fear. And yet, you looked at her like she was the enemy. You're losing her, Kane. You know that, right?" My wolf growled. I gritted my teeth. "No, I can fix this. I can still—" "Kane?" a voice called. I turned and saw her. Violet. She looked shaken. Her eyes were wide and red-rimmed. She wrapped her arms around herself like she was cold. Her lips trembled. "I was looking for you," she whispered. I didn't know who else to talk to. It reminded me of then." I nodded and walked toward her. "Are you okay?" She hesitated before throwing herself into my arms. Her body was tense but soft against me. She was trembling. It brought it all back. She choked out. "The dark, the cage, the men grabbing me and dragging me away." "I've got you," I whispered, rubbing her back. "You're safe now, Violet. You did good. You were brave." She pulled back just enough to look at me. I wasn't sure if I could do it, but when I saw her, Kathy, I just reacted. I wasn't going to let them take her, not like they took me. I studied her face, the tears, The fragility, the pain I'd seen on her 5 years ago was still in her eyes. But Kathy's words haunted me. She hurt me. She hit my head so hard that I fainted. Still holding Violet gently, I asked as carefully as I could, "Can you tell me exactly what happened? At the hotel, with Kathy." Her arms stiffened slightly. Then she pulled back just a little, enough to look up at me with wide, hurt eyes. "Do you not believe me?" she asked in a sad tone. "What? No, it's just... If you're doubting me, Kane," her voice cracked as her lower lip trembled. "If you think I would lie to you after everything, then maybe you should just go." "Violet," I said gently, "I'm not saying I don't trust you." 5 years, she whispered. 5 years I was locked away, treated like an animal, and the only thing that kept me from giving up was you. My throat tightened. "I held on to the thought of you," she continued, "that maybe one day I'd see you again. And now you're standing here, asking if I'm lying?" "I'm sorry," I murmured immediately. I could feel the guilt twisting in my chest. "I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking. I'm confused, Violet. That's all. It's not your fault." She nodded slowly, resting her head against my chest again. Her fingers clutched at my shirt like she was afraid I'd vanish if she let go. I held her in silence. Then quietly she spoke again. "Back then, 5 years ago," she started. Her voice drifted off. I stiffened. "What about back then?" I asked her. She paused. I think Kathy's working with them." I pulled back. "What?" She looked overly surprised when she saw the guard, like she was acting. Then suddenly she threw herself against the wall, hard, like she wanted to get hurt. "Violet, no." I shook my head. "Stop. She's trying to deflect suspicion. I know it. She's pregnant." Violet looked away. "All the more reason. She knows she's important to you. She's using it." I didn't respond. I didn't want to believe what I was hearing, but I couldn't ignore the knots tightening in my gut. "I think you should rest," I said quietly. "We'll talk more later." I left before she could argue. I didn't stop walking until I was in my office with the door shut and my hands braced on the edge of the desk. "Jason," I called out. A second later, Beta Jason stepped in. "Did the prisoner talk?" I asked him. Jason's expression was grim. "He didn't get the chance." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "He took poison. Cyanide. Bit down on a capsule hidden in his tooth before we could even get a full sentence out of him," he explained. My heart sank. "Where was it from?" Jason hesitated. "Nightfang pack. Silence. Someone didn't want the truth getting out. Someone had planned this from the start, and somehow Kathy seemed to be at the center of it all. But was she a victim?" I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly, and yet all I could see were Kathy's eyes, shattered, broken, done. I had a sinking feeling in my chest. Something was unraveling, and I didn't know how to stop it. Kathy's POV. After Kane left, I felt still. It wasn't peaceful. It was the quiet that comes after a storm, when you're standing in the wreckage and you're too numb to cry. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time with one hand on my belly and the other tangled in the blanket, staring out the window as the sun dipped lower into the trees. I kept thinking about the world my child would be born into, a world where Violet's lies were swallowed whole, where people bowed to her because of her beauty, her charm, her position, a world where truth didn't matter, only power did, where people like me could be thrown under the bus at any time, a world where my child, my pup, would be bullied, judged, looked down on, not because of who they were, but because of me. Because I wasn't Luna material, because I didn't win the popularity contest. And that terrified me more than anything. So I talked to James. I told him everything about the fear, the dreams I had where my child was cornered and mocked, the constant anxiety that I wouldn't be able to protect them in this place. And James, he didn't hesitate. "If leaving is what's best for you and the baby, I'll help you pack," he said. His words broke me in the best way. I cried in his arms for what felt like hours. I didn't deserve his loyalty, but there he was, always there. He told me my pup was strong, healthy, that I should be able to give birth safely on my own. And when he said it, I believed him. For the first time in months, I didn't feel afraid. I felt free. It didn't take long after I recovered to leave. I moved back in with my adoptive parents, Beta, Jason, and Gina, into the same warm, sunlit house I grew up in. There was no Kane, no Violet, no Lady Helen watching me like I was something she needed to disinfect from her fancy carpets. Just peace. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe. There were still echoes of pain, sure. Sometimes I'd catch a whiff of Kane's scent and have to sit down. Sometimes I'd hear a song we danced to once and feel the ache like it would never fully go away. I missed him, his voice, his touch, the way he used to tuck my hair behind my ear and whisper promises that, in the end, meant nothing. But I shouldn't. I should forgive him. I couldn't live in those memories. He wasn't mine. Not anymore. Maybe he never truly was. I stood in front of the mirror that morning and stared at the reflection. My soft curls were pulled into a bun. My favorite soft lavender dress hugged my round belly. My eyes were a little tired, but they looked less hollow than they'd been in months. "You're going to be okay," I whispered to myself. And I meant it. The smell of roasted turkey and waffles filled the air as I stepped out of the room. It was a smell that always felt like home. My mom, Gina, was already at the stove, humming softly as she flipped the last of the waffles onto a plate. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "There she is." "Morning, baby," she said. "Morning, Mama." She walked over and kissed my cheek. "Go sit. You need to eat." James was already at the table, freshly showered, flipping through a medical book like always. When he saw me, he smiled. It was one of those genuine, gentle smiles that made me feel like maybe not everyone looked at me like I was broken. "You look good today," he said, pulling out my chair. "Rested." "I actually slept last night," I replied, sitting slowly. "The baby didn't kick me in the ribs for once. That's a win." The three of us sat at the table, and for a few precious minutes, everything felt right. Gina fussed over my portion, cutting the turkey small and slathering my waffles in maple syrup. James insisted I take the last piece of toast, despite my protests, and all the while they looked at me, not with pity but with love. Gina reached across the table and touched my hand. "You're doing the right thing, sweetheart. You're strong and you're going to be a wonderful mom." James nodded. "We've got you. Always." And just like that, I felt something bloom inside me. Not just peace, but gratitude, hope. After everything I'd lost, I still had this. I still had them. They were my real family. And then came the knock. 3 sharp raps against the front door, too precise to be a neighbor, too loud to be a package delivery. All of us froze. We weren't expecting anyone. Who could that be? I had a feeling this wasn't going to be good. Gina frowned and wiped her hands on a towel. "I'll get it." "No," I said quickly, standing. Something in my gut twisted. "Let me." I walked slowly to the front door. My heart was already starting to race. I wasn't expecting anyone. No one even knew I was here. Not really. I hesitated for a second, then opened the door. And there she was, Violet. My heart stopped. I stared at her, completely speechless. What the hell was she doing here? Kathy's Po V. Violet stood at the door like she owned the place. She was dressed in a cream-colored designer trench coat that clung to her waist like it had been tailored just for her. A branded handbag dangled from her wrist, one that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her sleek hair was tucked behind her ear. Her makeup was flawless. There wasn't a single flaw on her face. She looked like she had walked off the cover of a fashion magazine. Behind her were 2 Omega servants, dressed in the official uniform of the pack. One of them even held a box wrapped in gold ribbon. But what made my stomach turn wasn't her elegance. It was the car parked outside. The Luna's car. The gold crest on the hood glinted mockingly in the afternoon sun. I bit down on my lip, suppressing the bitter laugh that rose in my throat. Of course Kane gave her that car. Of course he gave her everything. The status, the servants, the privileges that came with being Luna. He handed them to her like they meant nothing. And yet there she was, still at my doorstep. Why? James immediately stepped between us. His stance was protective. "You're not welcome here." Gina appeared from behind me, glaring at Violet. "Get off our property." The Omega servants exchanged a glance, then looked at us like we were filth under their shoes. One of them scoffed. "How dare you speak to the Luna like that?" "She is the Luna," the other one added, glaring directly at me. Unlike some people still pretending to be something they're not. My hands curled into fists. My mom growled beside me. "You will show respect to your betters," the taller Omega continued, puffing herself up. "You should be grateful Lady Violet is being this kind to you, despite the shame you brought upon the pack." I snapped. A growl ripped from my throat as I tapped into my wolf, letting her rise to the surface. My aura flooded the place and it rolled out in huge waves, powerful, thick, demanding obedience. A deep, unrelenting Luna's aura that wrapped around us like smoke. Even James stumbled back, eyes wide. His body twitched with the instinct to shift. The Omegas went deathly still. Then, slowly, one by one, they fell to their knees. I stepped forward and spoke. I am the true Luna, and don't you forget it. Their heads bowed. One of them whispered, "Forgive us." Violet's eyes widened. For the first time since she arrived, she actually looked uncertain. Her gaze flickered down, then back up, and I saw it. The slight twitch of her mouth, the emotion in her eyes. Fear. So she really had been coveting my position after all. But like a true actress, she recovered instantly. She slipped on that sweet smile that always made my skin crawl. "I only came to check on you," she said sweetly, stepping forward and nodding to her servants. "I even brought you a gift." I didn't move. One of the kneeling Omegas stood and offered me the box. "I don't want it," I said firmly. "Oh, don't be difficult," Violet cooed. "At least have the courtesy to open it while I'm here." I hesitated, then I took the box. Slowly, I unwrapped the ribbon and lifted the lid. And there it was, a stack of papers, legal papers, divorce papers. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment I didn't move. I just stared at the signature line. Kane's name was written in ink at the bottom, like it meant nothing. Violet smiled wider. "Kane and I discussed it. We thought this would make things easier for you." Easier. My entire body went still. Cold spread through my chest like frostbite. I knew this day would come. I had been dreading it, waiting for it like a sentence already passed. But knowing something and facing it were two entirely different things. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Like the last shred of hope I'd buried deep down had been dragged out and crushed under her heel. Still, I lifted my chin and looked her dead in the eye. "I'll sign it," I said calmly. My voice was steady. Too steady. "But only after my child is born. I'll take my baby and leave." The smugness in her expression cracked. "You're using your child as leverage," she hissed. "I'm protecting my child," I bit back. "As long as I'm still legally married to Kane, I am the Luna, and there's nothing you can do about that." Her face contorted with fury, her fingers twitched, and I could tell she was just barely holding herself back. "Watch yourself," she growled. I smiled, sweetly, innocently. "Why? You planning to attack me again, Violet? Like you did at the Luna meeting?" Her eyes widened in shock, and then rage flooded in, coloring her face red as she spun around. She stormed off with her heels clicking violently against the floor. The Omega servants scrambled to follow her. I stepped out onto the porch with the box still in my hands, and that was when I saw him. Kane. He was leaning against the Luna car, watching everything unfold. The setting sun shone on him, highlighting his tall, powerful figure in a warm light that almost made him look unreal. His white shirt clung to his torso, and his sleeves were rolled up just enough to show his forearms. His jaw was clenched and his expression was unreadable. He looked like a god, and yet every word from his mouth was cold towards me. I turned my face away, pretending I didn't see him, but I felt him. He was already moving. In 2 long strides, he was in front of me. His hand snapped out and grabbed my wrist, holding it firmly, not painfully, but enough to make my breath hitch. "What the hell did you say to her?" he demanded. I looked up at him, swallowing the lump in my throat. His gaze pierced into mine. Not once did he ask how I was. Not once did he question what she said or did, just what I said. And that hurt more than I wanted to admit. He would always care about her. My eyes burned, but I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry. Not this time. I met his gaze with the same steel I had used on Violet. "You," I started. "Kathy's pov." "You," I sneered, crossing my arms tightly over my chest to keep myself from trembling. "Do you always assume it's me, Kane? Every damn time Violet runs into even the slightest inconvenience, you come hunting for me like I'm some villain lurking in the shadows." His face faltered. I could see the clear shock flashing in those deep, stormy eyes. Good. Let him feel a fraction of the betrayal swirling inside me. I laughed bitterly as I shook my head. "Wow," I said. As I spoke, my voice shook with anger and heartbreak. "You don't even realize it, do you? You trust her more than me. Your wife. Kathy?" Kane tried to reach out. His fingers reached through the air between us as if he could calm the fire he'd sparked. I flinched back like he'd burned me. "Don't you dare," I snapped. "Don't you dare touch me." The pain in his eyes only made me even more annoyed. He had no right to look hurt, not when he was the one wielding the knife still sticking out of my chest. "You believe every fucking word she says," I said, "even when the truth is bleeding out right in front of your eyes." Kane opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, but he said nothing. He just stared at me with his lips pressed into a thin, miserable line. Coward. I felt my eyes sting. I could also feel a lump clawing its way up my throat. I refused to cry in front of him. Not again. "Here," he said suddenly, pulling something from his jacket. A small box. He held it out like an offering almost. Desperate. My heart cracked open at the sight of it. Trembling, I took one step back. "What is this?" I whispered. He didn't answer. I slapped the box from his hand, sending it falling across the ground. "A divorce agreement?" I cried out. "That's what you sent to me?" My vision blurred as tears welled up against my will. "Fine, Kane, fine. As long as my baby is born safe, I'll sign whatever the hell you want. I'll leave. I'll leave with my child, and you'll never have to deal with me again." For a moment, he just stood there staring at me like he couldn't process my words. Then, something inside him snapped. Before I could react, Kane moved forward, grabbing my wrist and yanking me toward his car. "Kane, let go." I struggled, but he was relentless. He slammed the car door open, and before I could move, he trapped me between the cold metal and the hard, furious heat of his body. His chest heaved against mine. His scent wrapped around me. His scent was so intense, so fiercely him, that my wolf whimpered inside me. "You don't get to decide that," he growled low. Despite how mad he was, his voice sent a shiver down my spine. His voice was raspy, seductive, and my wolf couldn't help but react to it. "Our relationship, this, is only for me to define." I gasped, hating how my knees weakened, hating how my heart raced in my chest at his proximity, how my skin burned where his body pressed against mine. "Get off," I whispered. My voice was weak, even to myself. "You don't want me to," Kane said. He leaned in and whispered into my ear. His breath was hot and sent a shudder through my body. "You never have." I clenched my fists against his chest, but it was a pathetic defense. His scent, his presence was overwhelming. I could feel my core getting all heated up. My nipples were hardening, and he hadn't even touched me yet. A child needed their father's scent for comfort, and apparently so did I. I loved him. God, I loved him so much it hurt. My body betrayed me, leaning into his heat even as my mind screamed to pull away. My wolf clawed at my insides, desperate for him, needing him. His burning gaze pinned me in place. I could see the desire in his eyes. He was holding back. I could see it in the tightness of his jaw, the way his hands trembled slightly where they pinned me. I swallowed hard, summoning every ounce of strength I had left. "You'll always be my child's father," I said, my voice shaking. "But I will never be your Luna again, Kane. Even if Violet never existed, I'd still divorce you." Something flashed through his eyes then, something wild and wounded and furious all at once. Before I could turn away, Kane grabbed my face between his hands and kissed me. I gasped against his mouth. My hands pushed at his chest, but it was useless. The moment his lips claimed mine, my world exploded. His kiss was brutal, desperate, filled with anger and longing and 1,000 unspoken words. I whimpered as his mouth moved over mine, forcing me to open for him, to let him in. His tongue swept inside, tangling with mine in a fierce, possessive way. I melted into him, loving the way his tongue rolled against mine. My whole body was on fire, in the best way possible. Kane groaned low in his throat, and it vibrated against my body. His hand slid down my waist, gripping my hips with enough force to leave bruises, pulling me hard against his body. I could feel him, all of him, hot and aching through the fabric separating us. My body arched against him involuntarily. It was a helpless plea for more. Heat pooled low in my belly. My wolf was howling in bliss. He kissed me like he was trying to stake a claim, to burn himself into my very soul. And the worst part? I kissed him back, just as passionately. I needed him just as much as he needed me, maybe even more. I hated how my body responded so honestly, how every cell in me craved him, needed him. His mouth moved down my jaw, nipping, biting, soothing with wet, open-mouthed kisses that made my toes curl. "Kathy," he rasped into my skin, "you'll never leave me. You can't." He chuckled lowly against my neck. The sound was dark and mocking. "You belong to me, even when you pretend otherwise." His words were like a bucket of ice water dumped over my head. Reality crashed back in. He was mocking me. He thought I could never do without him. He wasn't doing this because he missed me or wanted me. He was doing this to prove a point. I shoved at his chest with all my strength. "Get away from me," I cried. For a moment, he didn't move, then he let me go. Without looking back, I ran, practically bolted, for the house. I threw open the door and slammed it shut behind me, leaning my weight against it like I could somehow keep him and all the hurt out. My knees buckled, and I slid down the door until I was crumpled on the floor. The sobs broke free before I could stop them. They ripped from my chest in ugly, shaking gasps. I hugged my belly, cradling the only piece of Cain I'd ever get to keep, and cried for everything I'd lost. For the love that still lived inside me even when it shouldn't. For the woman I'd once been. For the future that could never be ours. Tears streamed down my face, soaking my trembling hands. And for the first time in a long, long time, I let myself break Kathy's pove. The muffled sobs I had been desperately holding back escaped in broken, pitiful gasps. I hated how weak I sounded. I hated even more how shattered I felt inside. Hearing the commotion, my mother hurried from the kitchen. Her eyes were wide with worry. "Kathy, sweetheart," she called out, rushing toward me. Her arms wrapped around me immediately. Her arms were warm and safe, like a haven I hadn't realized I needed so badly. One look at my swollen, tear-filled eyes, and she pulled me closer, as if she could shield me from the whole world. "What happened, my baby?" "Tell me," she said. As soon as she said that, the dam burst. I clung to her like I was drowning, and she was the only thing keeping me afloat. My voice trembled and cracked as the words tumbled out of me, all the things I had bottled up for so long. "It's Cain," I whispered brokenly. "It's always Cain. He believes everything Violet says. Every time there's a problem, every single time she cries, he looks at me like I'm the villain." My voice grew hoarse from the rawness in my throat. My mother held me tighter. Her hand stroked my hair like she used to when I was just a little girl afraid of thunderstorms. "Shh, baby, it's okay, let it out," she whispered. I hiccuped on a sob. "He makes me feel worthless, Mom, and I'm tired of it. He treats me like I'm disposable, like I'm some obligation. And Violet—" I choked, my nails digging into the fabric of her blouse. "Violet knows it. She twists everything. She makes herself look like the victim, and he just believes her." Mom pulled back slightly, cupping my cheeks in her palms. Her soft eyes, filled with sadness and anger for me, searched my face. "A man who doesn't cherish you, Kathy," she said firmly, "is a man you must let go, even if it hurts like hell." I forced a bitter, broken smile. I felt so hollow inside that it hurt to breathe. I thought he loved me," I whispered. "You deserve more than to be someone's second choice," she said fiercely, stroking my hair again. "You're Beta Jason's daughter. You're strong, Kathy, so much stronger than you think. Don't you ever, ever let anyone humiliate you. Not an alpha, and certainly not a so-called Phoenix Luna." The conviction in her voice shook me, but deep inside I still doubted myself. Strong? Was I really strong? If I was so strong, then why did I feel like this? All I felt was broken. "I don't know if I am," I confessed in a whisper, my forehead pressed against her shoulder. "I'm tired, Mom. I feel like I'm being crushed a little more every second. I'm not like you or Dad. You guys are. You're warriors. You're fierce. I'm just—" my voice cracked again. "I'm just someone who loved too much." Mom pulled back once more and smiled sadly. "Oh, honey," she murmured, brushing strands of hair out of my face. "That's what strength really is. It's not about never falling down. It's about standing back up, again and again, even when your heart feels like it's breaking into a million pieces." Her words went into my soul. They were soothing and painful at the same time. She cupped my face again, her thumbs gently wiping away my tears. "You are far stronger than you realize, Kathy," she said with a fierceness that made my throat tighten. "And if Cain can't see that, if he's blind to your worth, then he is the one losing something priceless, not you." More tears pooled in my eyes, but this time they weren't entirely from sadness. They were from the warmth and love pouring into me from the woman who had always believed in me, even when I didn't. I wiped at my face, breathing in shakily. "I never cared about being Luna," I whispered. "I only wanted to be the one Cain looked at and loved, not just a title, not just a placeholder until he found someone better." The confession burned coming out. I guess I was just the convenient choice, I finished brokenly. Mom kissed my forehead tenderly. No, my darling, you are never a convenience. You're a gift, and one day someone will treasure you the way you deserve. She wrapped her arm around me and led me gently down the hall. Now come on. You need to rest. Still sniffling, I let her guide me to my room. As we reached my door, I stopped, blinking in confusion. Sitting neatly on my bed was a beautifully wrapped gift box. The ribbon shimmered under the light. What's that? I asked, startled. My mother smiled warmly. I could see a mischievous glint sparking in her eyes. Why don't you open it and find out? I walked over and picked up the box. It was lighter than I expected. Carefully, I undid the ribbon. My fingers were still trembling slightly from earlier. When I lifted the lid, my breath caught in my throat. Inside was the most exquisite gown I had ever seen. The fabric was a lovely deep shade of midnight blue, and it flowed like water between my fingers. Delicate silver embroidery traced along the hem and neckline, shimmering like starlight. It was beautiful, heartbreakingly beautiful. I turned to my mother, stunned. Mom, why? My voice cracked due to all the crying I had been doing. Why did you suddenly buy me a dress? Kathy's pauvre. The banquet is in a few days, Kathy. You'll need a beautiful dress, my mom replied. I froze. A hollow ache opened up inside me as I looked at her smile. I can't go, Mom, I stammered. Violet's the one representing the pack now, not me. The moment the words left my lips, the room felt heavier. My mother's smile faltered a bit, and I saw the hint of pain in her eyes before she masked it with forced brightness. Before either of us could say another word, a presence filled the doorway. James. He leaned casually against the frame with his arms crossed. Since when, he said, does being the beta's daughter mean you're not allowed to attend a banquet? I blinked at him, startled. He pushed off the doorframe, walking toward me. Even if you're not Luna anymore, Kathy, you still have the right to be there. You are, and always will be, important to this pack. There was something fierce in his tone. He was right. But what if I got in trouble with Kane? I didn't want any more drama. But I don't want to cause any more trouble, I murmured, twisting my fingers together. Good, he said, closing the space between us. You won't, because you're going with me. My breath caught. What? James laughed softly and shrugged like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I'm inviting you as my date, he said, ruffling my hair the way he always did, the way that always made me feel safe. And there's someone I want you to meet. A friend. I think you'll like him. I laughed. Impulsively, I threw my arms around both him and my mother, pulling them close. They both let out surprised noises but quickly hugged me back tightly. Their warmth surrounded me. In that moment, I forgot the pain I'd been feeling earlier. All I felt was love. Pure, unconditional love. I still had them. I still mattered. My mom held out the dress with a grin. Try it on, she insisted. I took it from her excitedly and changed quickly. When I came back into the room, I showed the dress. James and Mom were sitting on the bed, deep in conversation, but the moment they saw me, they fell silent. My mother's eyes lit up, and she looked at me in awe. James just stared for a long beat, his mouth slightly open. You look. James trailed off, shaking his head like he was trying to clear it. You look amazing, Kathy, Mom finished for him, wiping at the corners of her eyes. Heat flooded my cheeks. You're just saying that, I mumbled, smoothing the dress awkwardly. James stood up and walked over. He tilted my chin up with his fingers so I was forced to meet his eyes. I'm not, he said seriously. You look like you're about to break 100 hearts. I laughed. Looking at myself in the mirror, I hardly recognized the girl staring back at me. I gasped. The dress hugged my figure perfectly. The color made my eyes shine brighter than I'd ever seen them. For the first time in a long while, I didn't see the broken girl who lost everything. I saw someone beautiful, someone worthy. I want you to always look at yourself like this, James said softly beside me. Full of life, confident, happy. He grinned and nudged me playfully. You're my most important sister, after all. I rolled my eyes, teasing him right back. I'm your only sister, dummy. He laughed, ruffling my hair again, and I swatted at him with a grin. I just hope you find your destined mate at the banquet, I said, wagging my finger at him. I'll be the happiest sister in the world if you do. James smirked, tossing an arm around my shoulders. Please, I'm a catch. Someone's bound to snap me up. Yeah, if they can put up with your ego, I teased, making him laugh harder. Something's missing, Mom suddenly declared, tapping her chin thoughtfully. Before I could ask, she disappeared into the hall closet and came back triumphantly with James's giant speaker system. A few clicks later, upbeat music blasted through the house. "Come on," Mom said, grabbing my hands and twirling me around. I laughed, holding up the dress as I danced. James joined in, lifting me off the ground in a spin that had me shrieking and giggling. We danced like maniacs, hands flailing, feet tripping, no rhythm whatsoever, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. We were just happy. James spun me again, and this time we both lost our balance, crashing to the floor in a heap of laughter. "Ouch," I groaned, but I was still laughing too hard to really care. When I looked up, James was lying on the floor beside me. His chest heaved from laughter. I quickly scrambled to my feet. "Come on, old man," I teased, offering him a hand up. James smirked and took my hand, pulling himself up effortlessly. We danced for what felt like forever, until we were all sweaty and breathless. When we were done, we all collapsed onto the bed in a tangled pile. I clutched my side, trying to catch my breath. "That was insane," I panted, laughing. "I needed that." Mom pulled me close, kissing the top of my head. "You needed to feel alive again, baby." I smiled and hugged her back tightly. "I love you guys," I whispered. My heart felt impossibly full. James ruffled my hair yet again, grinning. "Anytime, shorty." I swatted him playfully and sat up straighter. A thought suddenly hit me. "Wait, James, who's this mysterious friend you're introducing me to?" I leaned forward eagerly. James only chuckled, tapping the side of his nose. "That's a surprise. You'll find out tomorrow." I groaned dramatically. "You're evil." "Patient, Kathy," he said. "Patience is a virtue." I rolled my eyes but couldn't stop the small smile that tugged at my lips. For the first time in what felt like forever, the dark cloud over my heart had lifted just a little. I felt lighter, hopeful, excited even. Tomorrow was the banquet. Tomorrow, everything might change, and for once, I was ready. Kathy's POV. I entered the banquet hall with James on my arm. His presence made me feel much more comfortable. The air was filled with whispers as we made our way through the elegantly decorated space. The murmurs of the gathering crowd was barely louder than the music playing softly in the background. The moment we stepped through the threshold, the atmosphere shifted. Whispers spread through the crowd. "Is that Kathy? How shameless!" Showing her face here after everything. I heard Kane is finally divorcing her. About time, she was always a disgrace to the pack. Imagine losing your Luna title and still clinging to the spotlight. Pathetic. I could hear every word, every sneer, every cutting insult meant to tear me down. The faces blurred around me. All of them were too cowardly to speak to me directly. They hid their faces behind hand fans and champagne flutes as they whispered poison. My heart clenched. The old me would have faltered, would have wanted to run, to disappear into the marble floors. The old me would have cried and trembled, but not anymore. James must have felt the tension in my body because he leaned closer, murmuring against my ear, "Don't waste your time on them, Kathy. They only gossip because they're beneath you." I lifted my chin high. I did my best to look unbothered, even though my heart was pounding heavily inside my chest. "Let them talk," I said aloud. "Only lowlifes gossip behind people's backs." The whispers died instantly, and for a moment there was silence. The women looked at me with shocked expressions. They weren't expecting me to fight back. They expected me to run into a corner. I would keep on surprising them. I kept walking with my head held high, and yet I felt it, that presence. Kane, even across the massive hall, his aura pressed against my skin. His aura was thick and suffocating, alpha to the core. Dominant, dangerous, and still my soon-to-be ex-husband. Even from a corner of the room, I could feel his alpha aura. Everyone could. I didn't look at him. I wouldn't. I refused to give him the satisfaction. James gently squeezed my hand. "I need to meet someone. A friend," he said with a small smile. "Will you be okay alone for a moment?" I nodded. "Go ahead. I'll be fine." James gave me a smile before disappearing into the crowd, leaving me surrounded by curious stares. I exhaled slowly, trying to calm myself. I could do this. I was doing this. I began walking toward the refreshment tables when I caught a flash of something familiar from the corner of my eye. Violet. My stomach twisted as I took in her appearance. To my horror, she was wearing the exact same emerald green gown I was wearing. The same embroidery, the same silk, the same color, the same low-cut back. The only difference was that my dress hugged the slight swell of my stomach protectively. It was a dress specially made for pregnancy. For a moment, I stood there stunned, feeling the irony of it all. How was this possible? Before I could gather my thoughts, another voice echoed behind me. "Kathy?" someone said in a sweet tone. I turned to see Luna Sarah of the Moon River Pack approaching. She smiled at me, but I could see that it wasn't genuine. Her sapphire blue dress sparkled obnoxiously under the lights, as fake as the woman wearing it. "How brave of you to show up," Sarah said, loud enough for others to hear. Most women would have had the decency to hide after such humiliation. I smiled. "It's not bravery, Sarah. It's confidence. Something you wouldn't recognize if it slapped you in the face." Sarah's face reddened, but she pushed on. "Though, wearing the same dress as Violet?" She laughed lightly, looking toward the other woman who was pretending not to notice. "Really, Kathy? Are you that desperate for attention?" I tilted my head slightly, feigning innocence. "Oh, this dress? It's a maternity design, specially made for pregnant women." I smiled wider, letting my voice drip with fake sweetness. "So, unless Violet's hiding something, it seems she's the one doing the copying." Gasps echoed around us. I watched Violet's face drain of color, her hands fisted at her sides. My wold growled with satisfaction. Checkmate. Sarah opened her mouth, likely to defend her partner in crime, but no words came out. Her mouth opened and closed uselessly like a fish out of water. The crowd around us murmured again, this time not about me. With a final polite smile, I turned my back on them both. A moment later, James returned. His eyes searched the crowd until they landed on me. His entire face lit up when he saw me. "You look radiant," he said. "More beautiful than I've ever seen you." I rolled my eyes playfully. "You're just saying that." "I'm serious, Kathy. You're beautiful when you're not dimming yourself for others. You didn't let the gossip get to you. I'm proud of you, Kathy." For the first time in so long, I felt free, as if the heavy chains I had worn were finally melting away. James smiled wider and motioned to someone standing beside him, partially hidden by the crowd. "I want to introduce you to someone," he said. I turned and my breath caught. The man before me was stunning. He towered over me with a commanding presence that rivaled Kane's, but without the heavy, suffocating dominance. His hair was dark, almost black, styled carelessly yet perfectly. His jawline was sharp enough to cut glass, and his eyes, a piercing shade of silver, locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach flip. He wore a black suit that fit him like a second skin. His broad shoulders and muscular build were evident even through the suit. Confidence radiated from him in an effortless manner. The corners of his mouth curled up into a devastatingly charming smile. Goddess, he was gorgeous. Perfect, even. "Hi, I'm Derek, Alpha of the Silver Shadow Pack," he said. His voice was so deep and husky that it sent shivers down my spine. "Long time no see. Long time no see? Did we know each other?" I blinked, stunned. My mind scrambled, searching for any memory of him, and found none. How could I have ever forgotten a man like this?